Welcome to the Total Focus Podcast. I'm your host, Paul, episode 1. The goal of the podcast is to provide an outlet for people that want to learn more about photography, modeling, pageants, acting, and videography. Each week, we will bring on an expert guest to talk about how they started and how they achieved their goals in their field. Now that you know all about our podcast, let's join our guest. My guest today is Taylor with thewnk. Hi, Taylor.
How's it going, everybody? Hi, Paul. How's it going?
Thanks for being on the show.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I'm very honored to be here.
Oh, thank you. So Taylor is an expert videographer, and he's had the opportunity to work with a lot of amazing clients, and has had the opportunity to work with some big development houses such as Fox News and Discovery. Is that correct?
Yep. So in the last couple years here in DC, I had the opportunity to be an editor with Fox News Channel and also PBS, as well as National Geographic for a short time and Discovery Channel for a short time.
Well, we definitely want to talk about that, but let's start from the beginning. So,
Okay.
from a videography perspective, how did you get your start? Did you've always been to videography or video, or were you more into photography originally? Like, how did you get your start?
I think when I was growing up, I was really into telling stories, and I had a vivid imagination from what my parents like to tell me. Um, when they watch my videos, they like to tell me that I was a kid with this crazy imagination that could go pretty much anywhere. And I used to draw cartoons, and I used to write short little stories that had some, crazy action sequences, kind of like James Bond.
Okay,
It was always some guy saving some kind of girl from some
so more like hero
action
type.
sequence. Yeah, the hero type.
And are
As
are
as a
they
little
stick
kid.
figures, or are you kind of trying to like be more
The
detailed?
cartoons, yeah, the cartoons I was drawing were kind of like those were usually more. Um, there were less action figures, and those were more like just like sci-fi kind of things going on.
That's cool.
Um, yeah, and but the stories, the little short stories I wrote were much more hero related and probably came from the movies I was watching
And what would
or the
that be?
movies.
Well, how old are you right now?
I'm 27. I just turned 27 on New Year's Eve.
So you're a '90s baby, right?
Correct.
Okay,
1990.
so I guess that would be your. I guess your action man would be Arnold Schwarzenegger, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, to the Terminator, something like that. That's probably the hero. And when I was growing up, I wasn't really allowed to watch James Bond because he was the older group for me, and that's why I was, sneaking that with my friends, playing James Bond and watching James Bond when I wasn't allowed, like supposed to be. And that's probably where I got some of my hero references of, because I have a short story of this guy like climbing off of a helicopter and landing on a car and doing all that stuff that James Bond might do. But that's where my storytelling came from is the love of the movies and like the kind of the hero saving somebody, and then the love of storytelling. I guess one day, when I found my parents' camera,
What type of
it
camera was
it
that?
so I saw my parents' camera, and it was a PowerShot SD 450 from
Okay,
Canon.
so
Um,
it's a good
and
starter, right?
it's probably the most basic camera
Right,
that you could
right.
find on
So
the market. They probably don't even sell it anymore, but it is like the iPhone is probably better than this camera. And that was just because it wasn't even an interest in cameras that started it. It was just the idea that it wasn't something that I was supposed to have. It was my parents' camera that they would take like the family pictures for, and I was like, oh, that looks like fun to play with. So when I grabbed it and I started playing with it, it was just it was almost intuitive to play around with it, and it felt because I've played around with video games and all the likes of video games and stuff, and it felt like almost like a video game. Because when I learned how to take pictures and then press the play button and see the picture that I had just taken, I started getting ideas of what I could do with it, and and my creativity from the storytelling and comic books started coming into play, and I started trying to make short little videos. But the memory card was so small that I had to record, 5-second videos and then import them and delete them and
Now,
do it again.
when you were making those short videos, were you doing the James Bond going back to when you were a young child, or were you doing
Right, I
something?
was trying to. I think I had gotten some influence from the Jackass series, from Johnny Knoxville and Steve-O and Bam Margera and all them, because I was doing flips off my bed, stuff like that. I wasn't necessarily saving any kind of damsel in distress, but I was doing some sort of acrobatic hero type flip or cartwheel or something like that, like down the stairs, or doing something that took only a few seconds, but might have been interesting enough to watch.
It's always interesting to hear how people get their start. So, here's a question. So, you mentioned the icon of James Bond. So, who's your favorite James Bond then?
Well, I grew up with Pierce Brosnan as my James Bond. Like that was the one that what I wasn't allowed to watch because he was, well, I should say James Bond is overly sexualized, but Pierce Brosnan was the first James Bond that I saw that he was the one that showed me that helped me realize that like the James Bond like gets the girl that he saves, and like
So he's the
the
one in your
hero
stories then, or our character like that,
probably
tall and skinny.
right, like tall and like like I don't know if attractive is the word, but like socially acceptable, like attractively, like what society would consider to be attractive, because he was in the movies, and that's what society bases their standards off of usually. And
Man
so
of the hour, right?
yeah, the man that that walks in the room, and everyone turns and wonders who that is, and that was who I grew up with, Pierce Brosnan. I forget who was before him, and I honestly forget who was after him. Um, but he was the one that when I was sneaking James Bond movies and games. He was the one that it was built after, um, and
And then you
I
transitioned
never
into like the jackass kind of guys, more even
right,
crazier.
yeah, exactly. So if let's say like James Bond became a member of Jackass, that's kind of like the mindset I was going for,
It's kind
because I
of a
was
good
doing
concept if you think about it. He's got all the gadgets and he's gonna crash into a building. So,
right, yeah. If anybody would be on a good Jackass member, it'd probably be 007.
I would agree with that.
And so I don't think I necessarily took on the hero character in my videos or my stories that I was making with my friends or anything, but I definitely had that in the back of my mind, was um, that somebody in my videos was like the hero per se.
So at this point, when you're making so you're using this simple parents camera, you like kind of stole it, but borrowed it. Let's see, let's go with
Right.
borrow. Um, so what's that? That's like 12, 15?
Probably, yeah. I was probably 12 years old, maybe 15 at the oldest.
Okay. And at this point, you're making those little short, you know, 2 minute clips, right?
Yeah, I was making the same thing that you'd make these days on Snapchat. Like you'd record like a 5 second, 10 second video of your friend, like running off of something and then falling into something else, or just like silly videos that like if you're filming John do this funny thing that that Matt is gonna like, and so you just film it for John and you send it to Matt, and then nowadays you get the instant gratification because they open the Snapchat and like, oh, that was really funny, thanks for sending it to me. But back then, the reason I got into editing was because when I filmed a video, I then had to learn how do I get my friends to see this.
I mean, that's a good reason why you need to learn how to do that, right?
Exactly. It was
It
it
builds
was
that
the
skill.
main
It's building that skill that you want your content to be seen. So now you have to learn how to do the legwork.
exactly, and this is before content was even considered content. This is This is back before YouTube was even started, because I started uploading my videos to a website called Putfile, PUTFILE.com.
Now, are they still around? Because I don't
I don't
even know
think
about
so.
them.
I don't think they're around anymore, because you can search my name on Putfile was ADHD underscore overdose, because I had ADHD. Um,
Well,
but
they're
this different.
always they're the Wayback Machine. You can always pull that stuff up. So
Oh yeah, it's possible.
there's got
It's
to be
possible.
some
I
archive
thought.
somewhere. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
hopefully it's all appropriate if someone can pull it up, because that stuff was kind of silly. It was just me doing silly stuff in my room. But um,
Now
so that
you were
was
saying
before
you were saying about the reason why you had it named that. So
the reason why.
yeah, you said that specifically the reason why you had your name marked as because you had disability. So the ADHD.
Oh, yeah. So I had ADD, but nowadays people just call it ADHD. Anyway, so that was my name on Putfile. If you are interested in it for some reason in finding it, but anyways, yeah, my videos originally I was putting on Putfile, and then I was taught about YouTube through a friend, and that's when, like, learning about YouTube was how my production quality increased from using my parents' camera that I borrowed, um, and then I upgraded, and I convinced them to get me a nicer camera, and then it's all kind of, I guess, uphill or downhill from there, because the more the more they supported me, the more interested I got,
So
and I'm
when they do your upgrade, are you now in high school? Because so you're doing the Jackass stuff, and you said 12.
mhm.
So are you?
Right. So then I graduated middle school, and I'm in high school, and that's kind of around the time that they realized this is a little bit more than just something that I was just doing for fun, um, and so I started turning into, like, a little bit more than a hobby. I was trying to, I was getting my friends involved. I was learning new skills in order to, like, do more interesting stuff, and they saw me taking a liking to it. So I started going to, film camps during the summer and stuff like that. And then that's when they decided to, like, upgrade my equipment into this is called it's also a Canon. This is called a ZR-850. Um, so this was the upgrade, or I guess it was a downgrade, but in my head it was an upgrade, because they took mini DV tapes. Um,
I remember those days.
yeah, crazy.
So
So
it was a real it was a video camera at this point. It wasn't a DSLR.
right, the camera previous to that I was using, that had SD capabilities,
Okay.
and then I got the new camera, and I think I got the new camera because of it must have been a better camera at the time, but it was a mini DV tapes, and I got Final Cut Pro in order to increase my production value.
Okay. So was that
And
like Final Cut 8 at that point?
I think so, yeah. Final Cut 7, even. There is no 8, it's 7
Oh, it's 7.
and then
Okay.
X.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, so it was Final Cut 7 is the one that I started on, and that's the one I learned on. And I probably made 2 to 3 thousand videos with Final Cut Pro. Because
Cuz
before that I was using Windows Movie Maker, and I probably made about 10,000 on Windows Movie Maker, but they were extremely short videos.
I think everyone got their start on Windows Movie Maker.
Yeah, exactly. I was making, like, the equivalent of a Snapchat per 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Except it took a lot more time back then to make a 5-second video.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
and at the time, the mini DV tapes were superior to SD just because they didn't have a standard format for compression yet. So it was a better you were capturing a higher quality. So you probably were right buying the mini tape.
Yeah, at the time it was an upgrade in like quality because for a lot of reasons that I'm not going to be able to explain off the top of my head.
Want to take 1 minute from Taylor and talk about our sponsor of the week, which is Mid-Atlantic Video and Photography Productions. Mid-Atlantic Video and Photography Productions is a one-man shop. Not only do they do photography, but they also do videography. So from weddings to professional headshots to pageants to wedding videographies, they are the team that can get the job done. You should reach out to Paul at 410-258-3832, or you can go to their website with the letters mavpp.com. Again, that's mavpp.com. Now let's go right back to Taylor and his great interview. So you had mentioned that your parents sent you to videography camp before you left high school. So what experience was that like? Because I've never had that before. That sounds like pretty cool.
I went to this camp a few times, 2 or 3 times, called Maine Media Workshop, and it's up in Maine, obviously. And what you do is, I signed up specifically for like the editing classes. I went the first time. I believe I went the first time for like the beginner editor, etc. But then I went back for intermediate. I think I went back for expert at some point, or advanced, whatever you want to call it. But it's kind of just like, a place where you can really focus on what it is that you enjoy doing. Like if you were to go, to like a volleyball camp, but it was for film. And then I also went to this camp at Stanford University, which is a little bit more specialized. The camps are hard to remember because they were so long ago, to be honest, but I had a great time. I would definitely recommend any type of specialized camp to any type of creative person that doesn't feel comfortable going to just like a camp where you're just going to run around doing whatever you feel like doing. But the specialized camps I went to were great, and I had a great time, and I'm still friends with the people I met however many years ago.
Do you think you're in a better spot because you had that experience in that camp?
Definitely. I'm definitely better off in my creative professional lifestyle, having gone to film camps in the past because of just learning how to like network. That's not really the main reason, but that's like one of the most common themes from the lifestyle I live as a freelancer. I would love to, have a full-time creative job for someone, but the lifestyle I've lived over the past few years is the lifestyle of a freelancer, and I've learned a lot of that. I've learned a lot of skills that attribute to being a freelancer through going to film camp and just learning how to, like, teaching myself how to edit, for example, in order to get my stories out there. And these are not mandatory things. If a film camp doesn't interest you as a filmmaker, then there's plenty of other ways. But as a filmmaker, I've been to film camps, and I can say that they were interesting if you attend them with an open mind.
Well, either way, fundamentals are really important. So if they really taught you how to really do some basic editing and then also communicate and really network. I mean, those are things that no classroom's going to teach you. And if you got that from just going to camp, I mean, that's a way biggest endorsement than I can't. I mean, I can't. I mean, I agree with you. There's no other better way to get that experience.
Right.
So, you graduated. Now, when I graduated back in 2000, my school, they made you graduate in certain categories. So, when you graduated, did your school have you graduate into a certain category?
I I mean, in my film school
Well, you
or my
just in general your general school that you graduated high school from. I didn't know if
oh
you were going to school and you took a track in actual videography or editing or so that that's what the base
so
of the question was.
the when I went to high school, I went to an all boys private Catholic school. It wasn't very. I kind of had. I had definitely. I had definitely found my love for film before going to high school. It, but it was my love for film hadn't really blossomed into my only passion in high school. That kind of started probably like sophomore junior year. But there was no real reason for it. It was just the amount of years that had elapsed from doing the same thing for so long. But when I first got to high school freshman year, I was doing a lot of videos and I was creating a lot of content for YouTube specifically. But no one was supporting me on YouTube. They were just I was getting a lot of support as a filmmaker, but I wasn't getting necessarily the same support for being a YouTuber that I do now, which is a whole nother story. And I'm jumping ahead a lot, but
Well, it's your story. You can jump around. I'm just want to hit all the bullet points. So
right. So when I first got into high school and I was uploading on YouTube, I didn't necessarily want many people to know because there was no term such as a YouTuber, and there was I was the 15-year-old kid that wanted to be a YouTuber 10 years ago, and now every 10-year-old kid wants to be a YouTuber, and I think that's amazing, but it's also unfortunate because like now it's just as rare as becoming a celebrity.
well, I agree with you. I mean, anyone can make a video, but being well known is a big challenge. I mean that's what everyone strives to do. I mean, I think anyone wants to make a living at what they do. So that's absolutely correct. So in high school, it's blossoming. Are you still doing your small videos, or are you working on a bigger project, or have you made a bigger project in high school, or is you just kind of you're just going through high school and then
So I think in high school, most of my projects were short form based. So anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, um, and the longer form videos I was doing were more kind of contract based because I started being a freelancer pretty much as soon as I started learning how to edit because um, there were people around me that were taking a notice based on the mere quantity of content I was putting out in the age I was.
so in high school
Um,
you had paid work, or you at least
yeah,
had you
it
had or
wasn't
freelance work.
right. Exactly. I was a paid freelancer, but it wasn't an amount that was I couldn't talk about in an interview per se.
It's
But yeah,
something,
I
right?
was
It's something.
yeah. I mean, it was that when I was a kid and I was getting paid to do something that I considered to be just a hobby. That was when my dad realized that I needed to be pushed more than I was pushing myself, like in a mentor kind of way. So he is the one that upgraded me from the Canon, what is it, ZR 850, I think it was, and then he got me. Oh man, it's over here. He got me a Canon GY HM 100U, I think it is.
So we went from
It's
the tapes now to another camera. This is the
right back to this is back to SD quality,
okay.
but
So you're on your third
sorry,
camera.
SD tape quality, but HD film quality.
Oh,
So I went from the mini DV tapes back to it was a handy cam. I went to a camcorder with like two SD card slots. Um, and it looked more professional. I had like a shotgun mic and everything.
So you're on your third camera. Dad's totally in on this. You're getting paid work. So you're still in high school. So I mean, some people just mow grass and get paid. You're doing videos at 15,
Yeah,
16,
so
17. That's pretty cool. That.
the videos that I was getting paid for were kind of like people that were asking me to do a favor for them and do this or that. And the video came out really well, but they were definitely getting, a bargain deal based on my age, my skill level, my experience, and whatever, and what I thought I could charge. So I was charging, $50 for a video that today I would definitely charge, 500 for. Um, but that's one of the things that even before that, I was editing videos for free, and the person didn't even offer to pay me because they didn't even think that I wanted to be paid for it. And that's because I found something that I could do for fun that eventually I did, like I now do for money, but that's because other people want to pay me for it.
I mean, that's living. That's the goal in life, right? You do
Right,
something you
and that it
love and you
happens
get paid
from,
for it. I mean, I
yeah, and it
can't.
doesn't necessarily just happen from the fact that I'm good at it. Because you can do something like I could pick up something tonight and be good at it, but that doesn't mean that someone should pay me the same amount that someone else that's good at it gets paid. Because I mean, the reason I ask for a certain amount for my freelancer rates is mainly because I know how to treat a client. I know what a freelance client would want because I've been doing it since I was a kid. um,
Literally.
but yeah, so my freelance rates for a video are significantly different from my freelance rates as a photographer, and that's because I never really took a focus on photography until recently, because again I probably had that Canon oh sorry, excuse me, it wasn't a Canon, it was a JVC GY HM100U, whatever. It was the upgraded version from the second camera I had. So my third camera was upgraded in January, or excuse me, it was December of 2017. And my dad got me a new camera because I kind of mentioned that I wanted to get into photography and take a focus on photography and learn more about it. So when he upgraded my camera from the one I had for 10 years and used every day to this new camera that had a photography option, that's when I started taking more focus on photography and learning a lot more about lenses and all that because I actually gone to school for photography. I just never really taken an interest or focus in it because I was a self-prescribed video editor and didn't really need the photography lifestyle.
Yeah, but isn't that what most people are when we're in that specialty? I know everything. I'm so special. I mean, I think most people, we get kind of opinionated about how much we know our equipment. Our equipment's so special. I have every single lens. So I mean, I think that's just normal.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so you've graduated high school, and you just mentioned. So where did you go to college?
I went to Full Sail University in Orlando, Florida.
Oh, that's awesome. And that if some of my clients or guests haven't heard of this university, it's a huge facility in Orlando. WIF does their pre-recordings at that facility, and they have uh, sets and they have all this cool equipment. So, I mean, what a great place to go to college. So, tell us about that experience.
Well, my college experience, now that I'm done with it and I've successfully completed the program, I can say it was an amazing experience. I learned a lot. I learned a lot more than I thought I'd ever learn. and I enjoyed being pushed past my limit when it came to my passion. Um, but that's a good reason as to why other people were not able to graduate. And a lot of people, they go to Full Sail, unfortunately don't graduate because they push you past what your I believe they push you past your limits creatively, and a lot of people don't necessarily want to be pushed creatively because they believe that your creativity is, sacred, which is understandable. But my creativity is furthered significantly by other people challenging me to do something, or even if it's a joke, someone saying, you need to do better, or you need to get better at doing this, or if they're just challenging me to do something because they know that challenging me will increase my potential, then like that's better than any other kind of compliment. So Full Sail, I believe Full Sail really really pushes you past your limit of what you believe you can do, and then even more so. But once you graduate and you get a job and you realize that was just their way of teaching you what the real life is about. It's a great place to kind of grow up.
So did you go to Orlando or did you do online courses? How did that
Yeah,
work?
I went to Orlando.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a good time. I had my own apartment. Made a lot of friends that I'm still friends with today. And Orlando is a little dangerous, but if you have your wits about you, you have some common sense, you'll be fine.
Oh yeah, well, any major city. I mean, Orlando's definitely a large city. I mean, it's got the largest um, music parts in the entire country. So I mean, it's gonna draw a huge amount of people. So um, so you graduated from Full Sail University. They basically did the military. They broke you down and then they built you back up and made you into a great videographer and editor. So now you come back to DC. Is that right?
Well, after I graduated from Full Sail, I was offered a position with Universal Studios Orlando, Florida, to be a video editor, and I happily accepted. And I was hired for a 4 month internship, and I impressed them to the point of extending that to an 8 month internship. But at the end of the 8 month internship, I realized I was no longer being pushed much, and I decided to. We mutually decided to end the internship after 8 months, and
And what was your role there? It first it
um,
sounds like for a while there it was a great experience.
oh yeah, it was the coolest thing ever to come straight out of college and have a paid internship in the same city and state was fantastic, and especially at a cool place like Orlando, Florida, the theme park. So I got free access to the theme park. I could bring friends whenever I wanted. I got to film at the theme park, and there was really like perks galore. There was really no downside to it except the fact that I I don't thrive well when um excuse me, I don't thrive when I'm forced to create like something out of the something new every day out of the same thing.
You want to be challenged. You don't want to be in a rut and do the same thing over and over. I totally understand.
Yeah, the challenge was amazing for the first 4 months, and then I think I realized after the 4 months that I was gonna have to push myself to create something to impress them within the next 4 months, and it was an amazing place, Orlando, the Universal Studios, Orlando theme parks. It was a great, amazing place. I would go there all the time, but there's only so much you can film in my time there. So yeah, the internship ended, and I came home to Virginia, just to live with my parents for a short time. And I ended up deciding that New York might have been a better chance for me to get work as a filmmaker. But having only spent a month, I spent a month there, and I did some work with some studios around town in New York. But I was offered a internship. Sorry, I was offered an interview after my time in New York. I got a call and I got an interview at Discovery Channel in Washington D.C. Realistically, it was Silver Springs, Maryland, but compared to New York and D.C., it's Silver Spring is pretty much D.C. So I came down. I worked for Discovery Channel for around 9 months. I don't remember exactly the amount of time, but it was a great experience. I worked on shows like Shark Week. I worked on shows like Hoarding Buried Alive. I worked on shows like The Explosion. Or they changed the name so many times. I'm not really sure what the actual
I mean,
name ended
everyone
up
knows
being.
Shark Week and Buried Alive. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
those are
yeah,
two series. So right there was like,
yeah,
oh, that's
exactly.
cool, right there.
um, so those were my two favorite shows to work on.
And
Um,
and for people that want to go into video editing and um, editing for a corporation like that, uh, um, a studio, um, what type of environment is it? Really professional, like like it, someone who's in high school that wants to work for that type of industry, like what's the type of environment?
well, I can say that the environment at Discovery is much like any other environment in the production world, in that they're professional, but they also make interesting the entertainment. So they aren't going to work in a suit and tie. And my boss was almost never in a suit and tie. I might have been sometimes, but if I was in a suit and tie, it was because I had something to do before or after work that required a suit and tie. And that's not to say that Discovery Channel it does not condone suit and tie, but they create entertainment. They create entertaining content, and that also shows when you go to work because the people there are entertaining and they have interesting, creative mindsets that don't usually they don't usually mold with the professional creativity world. So typically, it was everyone was kind of laid back, but at the same time they were very professional because they are doing what they love for a living, and that's very motivating and it's very inspirational. And it kind of if it's the thing that wakes you up in the morning, then if you look good, you feel good, and if you think that you look good in a hoodie and jeans, then wear that. And if you look good and you feel good, then you're probably going to perform well.
I mean, it sounds like the ideal place to work.
Yeah,
Give you the
and
opportunity to be creative and be in a casual environment, and it doesn't. I don't hear you talking about any stress or.
well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a stressful environment to create creative, interesting entertainment for a national broadcast. But I didn't have it wasn't my job to make this show from start to finish. I was just an assistant editor. Um, so
But you're part of a
I,
team, so the team.
of course, of course. So it was stressful to make sure that I did my job correctly, but it wasn't that I was stressed to do my job correctly. It was just a stress that you know when you're doing something that you see as entertaining, you got to make sure that that it's also entertaining to more than just you, and that can be stressful.
No, I absolutely agree.
And then so from Discovery Channel, once my contract ended, I got a call from National Geographic, and they said, kind of in short, that they heard my contract was ending soon at Discovery, and they needed an editor on a new show called Star Talk. They didn't tell me much more than that, but they asked if I wanted to come on for 2 months, and I told them yes, and I told them like when I could start, and they agreed. So I finished off my job at Discovery Channel, and then I went over to National Geographic, and I started the show Star Talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Wow.
It's his podcast. It's Neil deGrasse Tyson's podcast that's turned into a TV show, and they filmed it like a talking head podcast, but with with like a studio and in a in studio audience. That was pretty cool.
Okay. So they put some production level into that then.
Right. I was only fortunate enough to work on season 1, but it was nominated for whatever awards, the TV Tonys? No. Emmys? No. I'm not really sure.
I think it's an Emmy.
Okay, I forget off the top of my
I
head. But it was
should know
nominated
that.
for a TV.
I am the
Yeah,
host of the show. I should know that.
I should know too. That's one of those things that I was gonna, be prepared about. But yeah. So Star Talk was nominated for a TV award show, and it didn't win an award, but
getting nominated is one big step. So
right, exactly. So when my contract ended at National Geographic, I got another call from Discovery Channel saying, "Hey, I heard your contract is ending soon. We need an editor," and they had a different department that needed an editor, and called the International Media Logistics. And in short, I was re-editing shows that had already broadcast on TV, like Naked and Afraid, for example. I would watch Naked and Afraid that was broadcast to America, and I would take out extra parts that wouldn't be allowed to be broadcast in places like Africa or South Africa or Germany or any other kind of European place.
Were you doing voiceovers too, or you just doing?
I was just doing edits. So for example, maybe in Europe, on a show like Naked and Afraid, if they kill a cow, which I don't think they do, but let's just say for this example, they kill a cow. That's not allowed in Asia, or some European countries are not allowed to kill cows because they're sacred. So I would have to either find a way to show that scene without any kind of blood to portray the fact that it was not being killed, or just take it out altogether and find a way to incorporate some other kind of scene for the length of time that I had to remove the cow scene. Things like that. So it wasn't anything too drastic. But
that's interesting because,
of course,
I mean, as Americans, we are so centric on how Americans see stuff, but any other culture around the world, they don't see things the same way. So we totally have to alter it. I mean, if we're going to show it in their country, we have to abide by their rules and their culture and their just general how they believe. So, I mean, for them to pay you just to alter something that's already been previously aired, to do that's a great job, because you're just doing minor edits because it's ready. But it's also really fascinating too, because it sounds like you kept that knowledge, so all these really interesting facts about these countries that have these certain rules and cultures.
Strange broadcast laws. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like, I now understand why in Family Guy, when they make reference to a religious character, they have to show that religious character on screen, as if they were, instead of making a sarcastic joke in reference to this religious character, the character on screen was really just referring to the character on the screen. If that makes any sense.
No, it totally makes sense. Yeah, because otherwise they have to cut it out.
That's right, and that's something I learned through working for Discovery, which is kind of strange. But then after returning to Discovery Channel, I left Discovery Channel and had a bit of a change of heart, and I wanted to do something a bit more fast paced, a bit more meaningful is not the right word, but it's kind of what I'm getting at. I wanted to do something more interesting, and I thought that maybe the news was probably a good place to start. Looking for something a bit different when it came to production, and after applying to a few different places, I was accepted as a freelance editor at Fox News Channel, and so
Now, where is
I
Fox?
ex-
Is Fox in? I assume they've got a DC office because of just politics and everything. Is that right?
right. It's right next to the Capitol.
And you're working
Uh,
in that office then.
yeah, exactly. I was the editor in that office. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a great time. I love Fox, and I hope to continue working there.
So typically for projects like that, what were you doing daily assignments, would they
hmm
send you out to do a long report? Like what were we doing?
So as an editor, I was mainly working in the office, day to day, doing edits. Like a story edit would take about 6 hours. Um, so you have pretty much the whole day to do a story. But if you're doing just pieces, like little bits and pieces of little things that people were shooting throughout the day, that would only take a few minutes per piece, and you would have probably 30 of them to do throughout the day.
So high stress environment, high pace, but it sounds like, I mean, just from your tone of voice, it sounds like it was really engaging. Totally, it sounds like it was more engaging than your last two other big assignments on television.
Right. So Fox News Channel was the first time where I really actually got to put my work on TV, and it was definitely the most rewarding place I've worked at so far. But at the same time, kind of a different work environment because when I told people where I worked, there was a very there's a very um, thin line in the sand as to the reactions I got when I told people that I worked at Fox News. It was very there was two extremes.
Well, I mean, you could just said you worked at Fox. I mean, you could have,
Yeah,
you could just cut the news out. They could
yeah.
assume. I mean, you know, so,
A lot
um,
of people love it. A lot of people hate it, and so
no,
that's a great
but
that's
it
a
was an
great place to
opportunity.
work.
But it was an opportunity for you. So I mean,
Yeah, it was a great place to work. Somewhere
no
that
one
had
should
the
judge someone
reputation.
for taking an opportunity for you to learn and take a job. So
Yeah,
on that,
but I also appreciate the fact that somebody has has a a specific mindset that they don't like a place because of their beliefs, and that's okay because at some point in time I might want to do a documentary about something like that. So I can appreciate why somebody might not like this or that. Whatever might be, whether it's a news channel or a person. I can I can respect that.
absolutely. I mean, we are defined by what changes us in life. If we were all the same, it'd be a very boring life. And this podcast slash radio show would be awfully boring. So,
Yeah.
so your diversity makes it very interesting.
There
So
you
at
go.
this point, are you currently still working at Fox News, or are you doing a little bit of?
I I am a freelancer at Fox News, but I have been taking some time to focus on other places that I can, lend a helping hand at, like nonprofits around DC. And also, I just started working as a PR specialist at a dental office at Surrounding Dental. Not to be a shameless plug, but um,
It's okay. That's what it's for.
I am the PR marketing specialist now, so I technically am just, killing two birds with one stone.
Well, if they have a dental specials, you just let us know.
There
I'm
you
sure
go.
that I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that would like to go see the dentist. So.
Right. So the reason I started working for them is because I had the special opportunity to document some of their dental surgeries, and she liked my work to the point where she said that she wanted me around more often, but she didn't need me filming every day. But I'm there to advise them on their social media interactions. I'm there to advise them on marketing strategies, and I take their pictures and everything. I mean, not just theirs, but their patients and their teeth, and I do media for them, and I also basically just handle the patient's uh, problems. I'm a glorified problem solver.
Hey, I think it's a great position that you're in. You have an opportunity to work in a great field. I mean, working in a dental office, there's rarely anyone that's really unhappy. You get to do some really cool videos because dental dental surgery has some really cool. I mean, it's you have to like dental problems, but dental surgery is really cool. There's a lot of cool things that braces and all that kind of stuff. So it sounds like it's a fun thing that you could really grow on. So
Yeah, I'm very excited to work there, and very excited for the things that I learn that I didn't expect to learn, and I hopefully can make a big announcement coming up soon about some photography that I did for them, but it's not official yet, so I probably should keep my mouth shut.
well, we'd love to have you back on if there's something you want to talk about that. So
Of course, I would love to come on anytime, especially when I have something cool to share.
well, you're always welcome on the show. So um, any final thoughts for anyone who is like just trying to figure out how to be a videographer and wants to get a job at Fox News or Discovery or Natural Geographic? Do you have any last suggestions for them to really help them?
Well, my best my best thought process that I could think of to help somebody get a job that they were passionate about or interested in is imagine what the person that has the job that you want, imagine what they're doing on a daily basis and try to mimic that while also dreaming about what you would do better if you had their position. And by saying that, um, that should motivate you to try to offer your services um, to the people that might need them, because people want to hire someone that's going to further their company, even if they're a multi-billion dollar company with hundreds of thousands of employees. They're still looking to hire people that will further their company. So if you are untapped talent looking to have your talent tapped, then try to make sure that you have something to offer that whoever it is that you want to offer your services to.
Hey,
That sounds like kind of mean, like I'm like talking down to whoever it is that's looking up. But I guess like what I kind of mean is like I have never been adequate for any job that I've accepted. When I accepted the job at Universal Studios, I was not fit. I did not know what I was doing. When started working at Discovery Channel, I did not know anything about Avid. I didn't know how to work it, but I told them I did, and I just figured it out. At Nat Geo, I didn't know how to work what they were doing. I just figured it out. So just like
but that goes back to just believing in yourself and
exactly, yeah,
and dedicating yourself to learning on the job and if you're going to put your foot in your mouth like that, prove it that you're going to do the hard work. You're going to actually show them that you can do the work. So it clearly
Mhm.
it worked for you. That yes, you
Mhm.
put your foot in your mouth, but you actually showed them and you impressed them. So
Yeah, and also this might sound negative, but sometimes you have to work for people that you wouldn't want to work for in order to add it to your resume and show who you do want to work for, that you can work for other people. And that's almost a good comparison would be if you have a crush on somebody and you want them to like you back, but they don't. A lot of people would go and make someone else jealous by getting someone else to like them, and that's relatively what I'm talking about. In that I never wanted to work for Discovery or Nat Geo or PBS or Fox News, but the places that I do want to work for require more experience and skill set than what I have, and in order to kind of gain the experience and skill set of having 5 years in production and 5 years of editing and 5 years of this and 5 years of that is by working for other companies that I wouldn't necessarily have thought of when I got into film. I didn't think, oh man, I want to work for the news someday. That was because I needed a job that was going to be busy all the time, all day.
well, let's put some good karma out there. Do you have a bucket list of companies? Maybe there's someone there in PR that's listening to this, just wanted to hear someone's other opinion. Do you have a bucket list? Maybe
Right.
someone here is listening that will give you a call.
Of course. So of course, I think it's fair to say that YouTube is one of the companies that I would work for in any in any manner, which is a little bit embarrassing to say, but also VaynerMedia, who I've been trying to work for a long time, and I made a video and I sent it to Gary, and I'm doing what I think I can on my own accord to try to work for VaynerMedia. And at some point in time, I would love to work for MTV because I love making music videos, and that's kind of where I got my start in the freelance world, was making music videos. Um, and then Google would be an amazing opportunity because it's in DC, and they are the the family figure of the internet.
Well, if anyone's out there listening, Taylor is definitely an awesome person. We should definitely hire him. So if he's still available, then I would definitely recommend him. And dude, if you can get one of those four companies, I'm so happy for you. So
Thank you. I if if it's possible, God God will work his magic.
well, we're coming up on the hour point, and I want to hold you. I don't want to hold you past that. I know you gave me more than you allotted, so I appreciate that. So Taylor,
Of
why
course,
don't
man.
you tell everybody how they can get in touch with you, how they can stay in touch. Tell them all about your company that you personally run, and that.
Well, if you were looking to get in touch with me, probably the most convenient way to get in touch with me would be Instagram.com/THEWNK. But if you're interested in what I do and how I do it, and you want to see some more, my website is thewnk.com. THEWNK.com.
And just in case some of our friends have spelling disabilities like myself, we're gonna have it in the bylines and in the details of the podcast, either on YouTube or on um, iTunes. So there'll be plenty of opportunities to link to his talented roster of photos and videos. So
Thank you, man.
no problem. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us for the last hour, and thank you.
Of course, I look forward to speaking to you soon.
I can't imagine having a better guest than Taylor for our first podcast. Of all the things he's done in his short life and opportunities as a videographer, just it shows that with hard work, you can achieve anything you want in life. The podcast schedule at this point is still going to be erratic, but my goal is to have a weekly podcast. So please subscribe to the channel and stay tuned.